okay, so there's this ongoing narrative, and we all know it. If you're on social media, you know the narrative. Chapek bad. Chapek bad, Daddy Josh good is basically the narrative, right?
Right.
And Daddy Josh said hi to me when I was at Epcot or I was at Avengers Campus. Therefore, he's a great executive and can make no mistakes. And Chapek is awkward, so therefore he is stupid and terrible and everything else. This is This is from Molly.
Yeah, I love
this. Malls Rosebud is her Twitter handle, and she's great. She's fantastic. But she met actually. She had the honor of meeting both men at the same time, Demaro and Chapek, and she tweeted this. She says, "Not to spoil your fun, guys, but Bob is arguably the more personable one and drove a heavy portion of the conversation." Shrug. And then she goes on to say, he's just very friendly and came off very genuine. He was asking all the questions and seemed genuinely interested in talking to me. Josh is very nice, don't get me wrong, but you can tell he has his public persona down to a science and flips it on immediately. And this is the thing. And this isn't like, I'm not trying to sort of like
and someone else commented on that.
Well, I'm not trying to like generalize or whatever, but like the thing is like women have very good intuition in general, right? And they pick up on this stuff. And for Molly to go in there and sort of pick up on the fact that Josh kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of came off very fake. It was an act. And Chapek was genuine is interesting to me. Very interesting. Ollie, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Molly's tweet?
I think this is great. And my understanding is she was neutral, critical of Chapek at times, but she was just, I have to be honest, and this is my perception, and I have to even relay this and let you know. And somebody else commented on that redemption arc beginning for Chapek, and she was like, maybe. And, I think he's been working on a lot because he knows D23 is around the corner. And so I think this is really, really great to see. When I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
well, yeah, it is awesome. And the thing too is like, people have to be really careful. Like, and my fiance has a good kind of mindset on stuff like this. When someone is kind of too smooth, your antenna should go up.
Yeah.
And she told me the same thing about Bob Iger, and same thing applies, I think, with Daddy Josh. When someone is too smooth and they're just, it comes off a little used car salesman-y, right?
Yeah, it really does. It's like you're watching, those old Toyota commercials from the 70s and 80s hosted by, Squire Friedel. It was like watching those commercials.
Right. Exactly, Matthew. Exactly. And it's just like, look, I'm not trying to disparage Demaro, right?
Exactly.
I'm sure
it's fine if people like him, but give Chapek a chance. See these accounts, ponder over it. Give, Molly a chance here, because some were trying to debate her about it. And you should have confronted him. And she's just like, well, if you cross paths with him, you do it,
Right. And Molly is an interesting case here, because Molly had the chance to meet both men at the same time. See, it's one thing to meet Bob Chapek one day, and then 6 months from now you meet Demaro, right? Well, your comparison capabilities are a little bit off because it's been such a long time between the two meetings.
Excellent point. This is the exact same time.
She met them at the exact same time. So she was able to compare these two men in real time at the same time. And what she walked away with was basically Demaro, kind of fake. He turns it on a dime. Chapek, maybe while awkward, and maybe we'll go on about with a bunch of dad jokes and weird awkward humor. Felt more real to her, and that's fascinating. What do you think, Dre, in terms of this?
No, I think the points made are very astute observations. I mean, it's a very rare occasion when you get two executives like this side by side, and you can kind of evaluate them, direct comparison, so to speak. And it's a really kind of interesting thing because we've heard from a number of people, Daddy Josh, he's the smooth guy, he's so personable, and he'll ask you about your day and all that kind of stuff. But she was able to evaluate and go, kind of was like an act, kind of looked like he was turning that on a little bit, and maybe he wasn't as genuine as maybe people had kind of assumed or thought. But Chapek on the opposite, end of that. Came off far more genuine to her, and it was just kind of fascinating to hear because it was just like, wow, we don't really hear that too often, especially in the context between the two. We hear the exact opposite, but she was able to evaluate and say, no, he was really genuine. He really wanted to know kind of how my day was. Told me I should be a cast member, I think, is what she said. Later on down the line there in that conversation. And it was just kind of, it was really kind of revealing and kind of, I don't know, it wasn't consistent with the narrative that people are putting out there about that. And, we had this kind of conversation. And, if there's one kind of thing that we could tell Chapek is just kind of like, be yourself. Yes. Do what you think is best, Don't stop trying to be like Iger. Ain't nobody's going to be like Iger. It's kind of like if you were to tell Trump, try to be like Obama. That's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to happen. But if you... Guy. Yeah, be your own dude. And OG, I think you put it perfectly. That guy around the dinner table, Yeah. That kind of young man from Indiana, that kind of blue collar, kind of like, is okay with getting his kind of, hands dirty, his kind of sleeves up, and kind of can be personable on that level, I think is the best modality for him. Might not be the best modality for Bob Iger, but for him, I think it's the best way going forward. And I think he does feel maybe a little bit more comfortable. Again, I think he was in Florida at that point leading up to this kind of board member retreat that they're, having currently right now. I think he kind of understood he was going to get renewed. And I think, from all of this kind of noise, from all of this kind of media circus that we've been seeing, what's the worst that can happen to him? Maybe he feels differently coming into the role where he's like, I don't want to screw up. Now it's like, hey, you know what? People are going to think of me what they're going to think of me. I've already screwed up. I'm going to get renewed here. Maybe I should just kind of relax and kind of be comfortable in my own skin. And I think that was reflected there with that meeting, that tweet.
Yeah, 100%. And he, like, here's the thing. It's like, you're right. He needs to be his own guy, right? Like, and Bob Iger understood this. When Bob Iger came to the role, he didn't try to be Michael Eisner. Like, Bob Iger didn't go in there with the Mickey Mouse tie and the Mickey Mouse hat and the Disneyland sweater. Bob Iger came in and was like, okay, I'm going to be my own dude. I'm going to be the Tony Stark, billionaire philanthropist of the Disney company. I'm not going to be Michael Eisner, right? And it worked for Bob Iger. It worked for him. And that was his thing, his niche, his whole kind of image. I think that Chapek needs to come in there and create his own niche. Get off the teleprompter. And like you said, Dre, be that blue collar guy, and just be that guy around the table that tells dad jokes that are not funny. But you know what? It's still funny because, you think they're funny. You're like that kind of guy, right? Be that guy. Because I know that's who he is. If you ask his wife or his kids, I'm sure they can tell you a million stories about how great Chapek is. Just be that guy. And I think Molly kind of saw a little bit of that guy. And I think that the rest of the world and the fandom needs to see more of that guy. Hopefully, Christina Shockey and the people kind of handling D23 Expo, please let Bob Chapek just be Bob Chapek and get him off the prompter, at least a little bit. I know there's a necessity to have a little bit of that in there for sure, but just let him be Bob Chapek. Because I think if the fandom and the public saw the real Bob, I think they'd like him a lot more than currently. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may say something about Josh D'Amaro, I just sent you another tweet by this user called The Liberal Leopard, who basically just goes out of their way to debunk the whole Daddy Josh narrative. And it reads as follows. It describes D'Amaro as the guy who sees Walt Disney World cast members getting paid less than team members at Universal Orlando. He does nothing but act as a shield for Bob Chapek. and he's earned it. His main talents are schmoozing like Bob Iger did it by having good looks and charisma and flying under the radar just so everyone can keep pushing the bold man bad narrative.
Interesting.
So D'Amaro is overseeing the decline of Disney parks. That's what the liberal left's trying to say.
Well, yeah, and he is the guy running the fucking parks. And that's the thing that drives me crazy is that no one holds the guy running the parks accountable for the parks.
Promising though, what was it? Carly, she called him out, and she's a prominent voice on Dis Twitter. So
yes, Carly
you can retweet it if you want, OG.
Yeah, it's just crazy that, and we're starting to see more of it. More people are calling him out, which is fantastic. Yeah. He should be held accountable for the job he's doing, and it's too easy. It's too easy to sort of like, oh well, it's just Chapek. Oh, it's just Chapek.
But they didn't do that with Iger when Iger
didn't do that with Iger.
So they were consistent, great. But if they were not, then it's, I can't really listen to you.
Right. They didn't do that with Bob Iger. When Chapek was running the parks from 2015 to 2020, it was all on Chapek. Any cut from Galaxy's Edge or anything else was Bob Chapek. Now he became the CEO, and suddenly now the CEO has everything to do with the parks, and he's to blame for everything. Well, that wasn't the case in 2015.
And tomorrow has to walk on eggshells. Yeah, I saw that presented as a It's like, no.
It's crazy.
Well, then Chapek had to walk on eggshells with Iger. I mean, come on.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Chapek had to answer to Bob Iger. And that's the thing, too, is all the things that the parks fans hate right now, the reservation system, Genie Plus, and all that stuff, started when Bob Iger was CEO. If Bob Iger was all about the people and the fans, how come Bob Iger didn't put a stop to that? I mean, he was a CEO. He was Chapek's boss. Why didn't he do anything about it? He did nothing because he agreed with the decisions.
Yeah, so in my opinion, the book, in my opinion, for everything that happened in the Iger era stopped with Iger.
Mm-hmm.